Hi there! Today we're going to do a quick walkthrough of StaffingNation, which is TCWGlobal's proprietary vendor management system. In this video, we'll focus on creating supplier sourcing orders. These types of orders are typically used in an MSP context, when you don't have a specific person in mind for a role, but you know that there's a need. We'll cover logging in, creating an order, reviewing candidate submissions, and what happens once someone is on assignment. Essentially, the full sourcing and onboarding process inside StaffingNation. First, a user logs in, either via web login or using single sign-on through an SSO tie-in. We have an out-of-the-box connection with Okta, as well as the ability to customize with any other SSO provider or security login system. Then, you'll land on the general dashboard. What you see here is based on user permissions. Some may be department-specific, others at the user level. That's all set up during your implementation between your organization and TCWGlobal. From this dashboard, you'll see hires in progress, onboarding status, anticipated end dates, department headcount, and more. You'll also see widgets like time to accept offers and reminders that can be set to trigger 30 or 60 days out from an end date. There's also a helpful task widget. If you see a number here, that's the task you need to complete. Just click the number and it'll take you to the action item. Some of these widgets can be customized as well, but here is a general view of what it looks like. Again, today's main focus is the creation of orders and what those look like as engagements. When a worker is actively on assignment, that would be their engagement tied within the tool. Some of these workflows and customizations are going to be unique to your specific organization's needs after setup, but we will run through a general order creation today. To create a new supplier sourcing order, click the Orders tab in the blue navigation ribbon and select Create. You'll see several options. First is Create Order. This is for creating a general order for additional action. There's not an identified person that needs to be associated with this order. It's an order being kicked out for an additional action, in this case, suppliers to submit candidates for review. Then you have Create Order and Send Offer. This is used in a payroll or employer of record scenario where the worker has already been identified and you need to run them through for TCW to provide payrolling or employer of record services. Then International Order. This is the same general context, but when used outside of the United States. Track Workers is an additional feature supporting use cases such as headcount tracking and provisional aspects for a variety of contingent worker classifications that can be set up to fully maximize the visibility of your entire contingent workforce within StaffingNation. Today, we'll focus on Create Order. You'll start by naming the order. This can be anything that helps you track it, like SOC Analyst 2 or Animator Animation Development Project. Then, enter the number of engagements, which is the number of workers you need. This can be one or multiple. For this scenario, we'll just put 1. Next, you're going to add the anticipated start and end dates. Next, you'll answer the question, will they be on-site or remote? For this scenario, let's click Remote. Then you need to consider what office they'll be tied to. Generally, this is tied to your internal systems from a location hierarchy standpoint. They may be sitting remotely in Virginia, but they actually report to the Los Angeles office from a billing aspect. Now we have job descriptions. Job descriptions will be preloaded within StaffingNation. An order or engagement cannot be created without an approved and active job description within the tool. TCWGlobal and StaffingNation will work with your organization to identify and upload these. Moving on to engagement type, here we'll click full-time. And for estimated weekly hours, we'll assume a regular 40-hour work week. The tool also is able to track part-time and variable engagement types depending on your need. Looking at department, these will all be loaded within the tool via your TCWGlobal team. We will work with your organization to determine the appropriate selections based on your organization needs. Now, onboarding supervisor. This is essentially who oversees the selection process or the hiring process. And who they report to is who they are actually tied to or are directly reporting to. Oftentimes, these are the same person. That being said, there are scenarios when this is different, and this allows us the flexibility to have notifications and visibility tied to a different onboarding scenario and be customized based on the needs of our clients. Then we have additional notifications. We can add IT distros or an HR distro who may need to see additional information about onboarding. They may not need to jump in and take specific actions, but need to be kept aware of progress. They can be added in here as additional contacts and will receive notifications from StaffingNation around onboarding progress. Anything here in this additional information system we would consider custom fields. This demo account that we're running through, Happy Gaming, is tied to the gaming industry, so there may be specific system expertise that needs to be called out. If a worker needs badge numbers, if there's an additional end date that needs to be tied to security parameters, any worker ID number. These are all reportable fields that can then appear within StaffingNation, can pull on specific reporting, and can flow down to invoicing as necessary. And these can all be in multiple different formats. Date, checkboxes, drop-down options, you name it. There's tons of ability to customize depending on your needs. For the purposes of this tutorial, we will release the order to go out to the suppliers. So approved VMS partners that have been identified or within the VMS or supplier pool within your organization would be the ones receiving this. Then we have a maximum bill rate. Depending on the setup of the tool and how TCWGlobal works within your organization to identify specific workflows, there are a few constraints on how we would operate this. This account is set up for a maximum bill rate setting, meaning that we're setting a hard cap of $100 per hour for this position for all submissions. So suppliers would be able to submit up to the maximum bill rate number or below. In theory, this helps drive a competitive bid aspect as your organization will have visibility into exactly what the bill rate looks like, the markups, and what the pay rate looks like. This full transparency helps drive costs down. It also sets a hard, do not exceed cap to help generate budgets. The tool will provide an estimated budget on any of these orders based on a couple of factors. The duration of the engagement, which is driven by the anticipated start date and end date that were entered, multiplied against the anticipated weekly hours, and then multiplied against this max bill rate, gives an estimated budget for this role. This will give your team an idea for budgetary approvals and things like that. It doesn't factor in things like overtime, but it does give you an estimation of the possible cost. Pay transparency can be added in here to make sure the appropriate postings meet requirements around pay transparency depending on states and locations that postings go out in. Next, VMS partners are selected. TCWGlobal will work with your organization to bucket the appropriate suppliers into verticals. So, in the case of a gaming-based organization here in the demo, we have animation, which is perfect for an animator role. So we want to make sure that the appropriate supplier with animation recruiting experience are the ones who are selected. We don't want to send an animation role going out to suppliers tied to finance or HR recruiting. We want to make sure that the most appropriate requisitions are passed on to suppliers that are experts in that space. Next, we have candidate must-haves. This is an area where we're able to identify the specific must-have skills to be considered for the role. As we move over to actual candidate submission, you'll be able to see some of the areas where these come into play. You'll also be able to see the attestation that suppliers have to make against these, showing a thumbs up, thumbs down, and basically confirming that any candidate they are submitting matches those absolute must-have skills. This really helps with initial screening and maximizing the time of users within the tool when reviewing resumes that they are absolutely meeting the bar. TCWGlobal will generally run a quick screening to make sure that all must-haves have been met. For candidates who haven't met it yet, we'll make sure you aren't reviewing those from the supplier pool. Simply click Create, and that will create an order and house it under the Orders tab. After completing the order entry process, the order will appear as Open under the Order tab. Simply clicking the order will bring up the order details page, outlining all of the information that was entered during the order creation process. This is the hub for everything tied to the order, and it will stay visible throughout the candidate submission and onboarding process. When suppliers start submitting candidates, you'll see them appear on the left-hand side of the Candidates tab on the Order Details page. If the Talent Pool feature is enabled, you'll also see StaffingNation's self-source suggestions based on former workers. These come at a lower markup and offer an internal hiring advantage. All users tied to the order will receive email notifications that candidates have been submitted and are ready for review. You'll notice tabs for both VMS candidates and talent pool options. For each candidate, you'll be able to see who submitted them, any associated documents, chat threads with suppliers or managers, pay rate, bill rate, and markup for full transparency, and descriptions of all skills and must-haves. This is where the majority of candidate-related actions take place: shortlisting candidates, requesting interviews, and hiring the desired candidate. Once you're ready to extend an offer, you'll trigger that from inside the candidate profile. Most of the offer details will pull directly from the original order, including start date, time card approver, and more. You'll just review and confirm. An offer letter will then be sent to the candidate. Once they accept, onboarding will begin automatically. Once an offer is sent, under the Engagements tab, the system will automatically create an engagement for the worker and provide status updates throughout the entire onboarding process. Things like offer extended, onboarding, and completed. Once you click into an engagement, it will show engagement history, completed forms, contact details, and activity logs for that role. StaffingNation includes built-in self-service reporting. You can sort and filter by any field like status, department, or reporting manager, and export reports directly into Excel. You can also save views for easy ongoing report creation. That's a full run-through of supplier sourcing orders in StaffingNation. We walked through logging in, dashboard functionality, creating an order, reviewing candidates, sending offers, tracking onboarding and engagement, and exporting reports. If you have any questions or want a live demo, reach out to your TCWGlobal contact. We'd be happy to help. Thanks for watching.